Good
Okay,
morning.
I would like to welcome you all. My name is Nabil. Everyone joining us online also, welcome. This is Misreem, and we are trainers from AMZL, a McGraw Hill partner. And today's PD session is about differentiation. Can I have everybody's attention, please? Thank you. So, today we're going to talk to you about differentiation. We are all different. I'm different than Ms. Reem over here. I would like to say I'm different in what way? If the PowerPoint works, I'm going to tell you how. I'm better. I'm better than Ms. Reem because I'm a very tech-savvy teacher. I'm a good presenter. I can solve, look at them, look at me, say, what kind of show-off presenter is that? I'm a good tech-savvy teacher, so I'm better than Ms. Reem. This is my opinion. What about yours?
Okay, you think you're better. So let them judge first. And another thing, if you think you're good in math or you're good in technology, what about English? What about writing? Do you think you can write a good, nice essay, neat essay?
I have ChatGPT to write for me.
I can challenge you for that.
Okay, even if she's better at writing, I'm also better at spatial intelligence. I can go places and memorize them very easily.
And you can be better at different things, right? What are you better at? Just give me some examples of what you're good at. Drawing, wow, that's nice. What about you? Cooking, wow, the best cook ever. Use this one, it's better? Okay, fine. What about you? Baking. So everybody's good at something, right? And these are our differences, and these are the differences that we see in the classroom. So
you see where we're going with
we
this.
should be celebrating these differences in our classroom and make them an opportunity for every student to really be confident about something that he knows to do very well. And
so, you see where we're going with this.
When we talk about this, no one size fits all in education, right? So that's why we really need to differentiate.
So, we all know there is no such thing as one size fits all in education anymore. So our goal in this session is to explore how differentiating instruction can be very powerful in catering to the different needs of our students today. We are here not just to give you some information and you go, like DJ said, sometimes we attend workshops. Okay, send me the email. Especially, for example, in Dubai, we have a very diverse population. In your classes, the students are very diverse. They have different backgrounds. They are different. The more we cater to their needs, the more we design effective learning experiences, the more meaningful the learning is. One of the colleagues on this table, I believe, was saying when DJ asked about what are the biggest challenges facing education in the UAE today, she said students' attitudes. They say, I will Google this, I will do that. So, differentiation helps make the learning experiences that you provide to your students meaningful and thus fix their attitudes.
The problem is not with the differentiation. Like when I do differentiated centers, the problem is me as a teacher, I cannot divide myself into smaller groups. And always one group will take less attention from me because the other group needs more attention. So it's me being able to cater all the centers in this period while some they need me more than the others.
Now we're going to see some strategies that will help us facilitate for all students in the classroom. And at the same time, we give our attention to those who need us most. So we're going to see some strategies that might be very helpful and handy where you can apply them in your classrooms.
And then we're going to get back to you to give us your opinion whether you are able to do what we suggest. Yeah. Okay, so learners are different, and so is their learning. Let's begin with you guys. The outline of what we will do today is the following. We're going to define differentiated instruction. We're going to talk about the different types of differentiation that we can do. We're going to talk about the different range of abilities and preferences of students today, some strategies to meet and cater to the needs of the diverse learners. Our role as teachers and facilitators in the classroom when it comes to differentiation. And then we're going to end with some examples of how the books you guys have from McGraw Hill provide assistance and resources for you to effectively differentiate. So let's start with this. What comes to your mind when we say differentiated instruction? How do you define differentiated instruction?
Yeah, what comes first to mind?
Actually, you have to understand what is the main purpose of teaching. Here, as teachers, the mirror is not related to what we know, but whom you know. And as well, the main purpose is, we can say that the main purpose of teaching is not related to you as teachers, rather them as students. That's
okay. So how do you define differentiation? What comes to your mind when we say differentiating instruction?
I think it's an instruction that needs to include all in the system, regardless of the type of instruction, the subject, and everything.
Okay, so ways to include everybody in education. What else? What do you think of when we say differentiated instruction?
I think when we talk about differentiation, the instruction, we are referring to different learning styles of the students.
Okay, that's interesting. So referring or to cater to different styles of students. What else?
I think it means if I cannot learn in the way you do it, please learn me the way I can do it.
Okay, so providing different ways that students can do things. Go ahead.
Actually, I can summarize this in 3 words: method, content, and product.
Method, content, and product. We're going to get back to you. I'm going to add one more. Go ahead.
Because you have lots of multiple intelligence in the classroom, so including lots of teaching methods and different activities that caters all the abilities of the students.
Okay, so changing teaching methods. So we have different ways, targeting different learning styles, targeting different intelligences. Ms. Reem, what do you think? What is differentiated instruction?
So when we talk about differentiation, it really tells about all what you have mentioned, in fact. So, but we have to think about it as a process. It's ongoing. So it's part of your mindset that you need to differentiate. So this is where we can make students with different needs and abilities have equal access and engagement to learning. And this can be done using different strategies, as you have mentioned, learning styles, multiple intelligences, and meeting the students at their needs. So all those, we need to challenge the students and support them at the same time. And when we say challenge, it's not that I give them something very hard for them to do. It's something that is one step further than what they already know, and make these challenges not like tumbling stones, make them like stones that they can step on for success. As we look at this is a new version of what? Okay, what else? Different levels of students. Equality, is it? Equity, right? Excellent.
What's
so
the
this
difference?
Is equity. The difference between equality and equity. Equality, it's when I have teachers who've been very professional, covering the books from cover to cover, and when it comes to the exams, we have many failing students because they were teaching with equality. But when we say equity, which is represented here, it's when we are supporting students according to their needs so they can all reach their objectives successfully.
Okay, so we're going to start engaging with you guys. This is the worksheet you have printed in front of you. And in this worksheet, you have a 3-page bullet-based article on the types of differentiation that we can do. Please open the worksheets. If you're joining us online, you can scan this QR code. And once you scan it, you will get a worksheet.
Those who do not have worksheets, please raise up your hands so we can support you with the worksheets.
Yeah.
So what we want you to do is to read through the article
And fill this.
and then try to fill the graphic organizers with your colleagues So you can do it as a group work where you can fill the graphic organizer based on the information that you have read individually. So first thing, take like 5 minutes to read the article individually, and then 5 more minutes to fill the graphic organizer.
This is what you need to fill, and the first 3 pages.
And if you need any assistance or help, just raise your hand. Nabil and I will be around. And I'm sorry for the live streaming audience,
Yeah, we like
but
to
we'll
move
be
around.
discussing together.
The cameraman, I'm sorry, I'm going to be moving a lot.
Hi. Yes, we like the strategies that have been put.
Great. I think you're going to enjoy the presentation now. No,
Do you have a handout? Okay, we have some extra.
getting back to you at you من ورا الثاني بتقروني.
One. Yes, thank you. So you may have this if you want. Okay, after you read this, go to this graphic organizer here. Yes. And then try to fill this with your colleagues around the table. So you can fill as you're reading. Okay, now the first part is very easy, it's very direct, but when it comes to the other parts, you just have to get them and infer them from the text. So you can work as partners.
كنا جبنا نصور من زمان. Yes,
Just 2 more minutes for the article, and hopefully you're working on the graphic organizer to fill the information, and you can discuss with colleagues. The first part of a graphic organizer is very direct, but when it comes to the other 2 parts, you really have to infer them from the text and extract them from the text. No, not this one, only that one. Only the graphic organizer. Okay, that's it. So when you're talking about the 6 hats, you may do it here. Okay, as part of the instructional strategies that they may use. Yes, yes, yes. 6 hats, yeah. It enhances creativity. Yes. Exactly, and just seeing things from different perspectives. Okay, very good. Are there any others that were mentioned, like the KWL chart? You may also, what the students know. So when the students, you give them a new topic, they tell you what they know about it. Yes, exactly, exactly.
Okay, I think our time is running up.
I think we can start discussing what you have extracted from the article. So I'm not going to ask you for answers for the whole organizer. We're going to get answers from you as we are presenting, because we'll be touching at the 3 different parts of the graphic organizer throughout the presentation. So when we're talking about differentiation, what do we differentiate for? Yeah?
Content, process, product, and learning environment.
Excellent. Everybody got this right? Okay.
We
Marvelous.
highlighted the answers in the worksheet.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
if you got this wrong, we have a problem. Okay, so we differentiate as teachers with those 4 categories: content, process, product, and the learning environment. Our colleague mentioned 3 out of those. Let's talk a little bit more about those. When we talk about differentiating content, the focus here is what we do as teachers. What can we change when it comes to the material we provide to the students, to the content that we are providing the students with? For example, changing the complexity and length of a certain text they have to read. For example, changing Bloom's taxonomy level of the activity they're doing. We can, for example, ask them to explain photosynthesis, let's say, or what are the needs of a plant to grow. At the same time, if we have students that are different, that are a little higher when it comes to achievement, we can ask the students to work on analyzing an experiment on photosynthesis. If we have even higher levels, we can go beyond and ask the students to design an experiment. If we are providing them with material to read about this, we can change the length of the text. We can change the complexity and the vocab in the text they have. So when we are talking about changing or differentiating content, it's providing students with different options to learn the material we have. And we might stop here and go back to our colleagues' opinion, but where do we get the time? There is a lot of ways nowadays. DJ spoke a little bit about AI, about technology. The resources are plenty. The tools are plenty to be able to simplify and provide different versions of text. And specifically, when we're here talking about McGraw Hill products, we're going to show you at the end some examples of how those resources are readily available for you to use immediately with students that are on different levels, whether below level, on level, or actually approaching level, on level, or beyond. So this is the first type
We
of
can
differentiation.
also relate this to what Mr. DJ has mentioned. You remember the core, differentiation, personalization. So what we're targeting is the core for everybody. They should all know photosynthesis, for that example. Okay? When we differentiate, we tend to think always about the low achievers, but in fact, we have to differentiate for the high achievers, because these are the ones that might give you the pain in the neck when they're done with their work and they're roaming around and giving you a lot of trouble, right? So we should keep them busy. So that's why we should give them the extended, and we can give them opportunities to create a model of photosynthesis or an experiment, as he mentioned. While those who are on level, I can ask them to analyze or give me the formula. And those who are at the approaching level, I can just ask them to describe it in their own words. Tell me your understanding. Okay?
Okay, so the second type of differentiation is differentiation by process. And here we think about the differences that our students have. For example, when it comes to the time they need to complete a certain task, different pace they have, the different learning style they have. They're different. We can present the same material, but with different learning experiences. I had a teacher that used to differentiate by the volume of her voice or the tone. That's familiar to some of us who had teachers that are a little bit older. So when you still do that. I don't think you do what I'm going to mention in the example. So it works like magic. To us, not to the students. So if you're talking to the student, you're explaining photosynthesis and they don't get it. One of the biggest problems is, I asked the teacher about this and she just says it in a higher volume. Okay, so photosynthesis is, no, we're not talking about that. Different learning styles. How do we do that? So we're explaining something, let's say about photosynthesis. We show the students a video. We cater to those visual learners. That didn't work. They didn't understand it. What we do is we represent the same material but catering to a different learning style. Or throughout the same lesson we're presenting, when we're planning it, we plan presenting the same objective catering to do different learning styles. This way we can hit or target different types of students in our audience. So I would say, for example, I'll bring up students to represent different needs of the plant, and we do some kind of role play, let's say. This way, the learning experiences we're designing will shoot for different learning styles, and thus we would be differentiating by process. Or when they're working, providing different amounts of support to different students is considered to be differentiating by process. Okay? Because they have different needs, and this is different than providing different material. Okay, so now we're thinking about the process that happens, different learning experiences we're designing, and the different, for example, amount of support we provide. So we can also...
So we're not going to present one type for each student. It's like we give these variety of presentations to the students where we can keep in mind that we're targeting the different learning styles. Like yesterday, I came across a video about hyperactivity. And there was a very nice example, like a hyperactive student has the engine of a Ferrari and the brakes of a bicycle. So we need to harness this overaction and activity that he has. And this, we can take it into the kinesthetic. So let him do something that would really need some physical effort, which will really absorb this overactivity that he has. Now, coming to the product. And this is where the students are going to tell you where, hey, my lovely teacher, I'm going to show you what you have taught me. So this is when I'm giving the flexibility of different presentations of learning and different opportunities for the student to deliver something to me that will really show me how much did they learn. So I'm going to give them options. Like I might give them, and somebody mentioned the universal design for learning, which provides a lot of flexibility in our planning, catering for the different abilities and needs and multiple intelligences there. So in such a lesson plan, I can have assignments at different, not only abilities, but different intelligences. So I may give them like a group work where they can do a project in group. I can give them a research paper where they can do it individually for the intrapersonal. I can tell them, go out to nature and get me examples and pictures of, let's say, a certain phenomena, like houses of animals, okay? I give them the options. Go and take some pictures of where do ants live or where do birds live. So this is for the naturalistic. I can ask them to describe for the verbal linguistic, and so on and so forth. So we may give them like 3-4 options and let them choose wherever they feel most comfortable to present the learning for you.
Let me add on that one more thing. So it's very important, as you guys know, to understand our students and their profile when you want to differentiate. Let's take this one step further and think a little bit outside the box. We can, in addition to providing them with options, I had my students once do an assignment. The assignment was turn this lesson, which we have just completed, into something fun. So what they did is the following. They showed me what type of intelligences they have, the types of the differences they have, and they took the lesson. One of them converted it to a song. One of them converted the lesson into a comic book. One of the students brought me a video about the lesson which they recorded. One of them implemented the concepts in the lesson onto a game and showed me it's like they're role-playing in that game to implement. So they might surprise you. I used the resources that I got from those students for 3 to 4 years after that, and they gave me ideas I didn't even think about. So this way we have differentiated by the product, allowing students, empowering students to unlock what they call creativity, for example, and show us different products that demonstrate their understanding of the same concept.
Coming to the learning environment, and we say the learning environment, I'll come down to you and let me hear from you. What does the learning environment include?
Stations.
Word wall.
Okay, word wall, very good.
Was that World War or?
Classroom
Okay.
conditions.
Classroom conditions, so it's the physical conditions, very good.
Stations.
Different stations,
Plenty of resources.
resources around the classroom. What else? Anybody else?
Safety.
Safety, so we're talking about the physical safety of the student.
Even emotional safety and caring.
Again?
Safety, emotional safety and caring.
Emotional safety, and this is what I wanted to hear. Not only the physical safety, which is for sure a very essential condition, but the emotional safety. Let them feel safe that they are okay making mistakes and nobody's gonna bully them or mock them for making these mistakes.
The seating plan.
Okay, so we're talking about the physical environment here, the seating plan. What does the seating plan indicate? Okay, how does it indicate student engagement?
We can see that its differentiation is happening in this learning environment. Each group has different activities. It might be categorized based on their skills, aptitudes, attitude, and tendencies. So it's very clear that each learner is engaged in certain kind of activity inside the classroom.
Excellent. So we have those different stations with different resources where we make sure that each one of our students is engaged. As you see in this picture, it's very clear. Now it's for KGs, but even when we're talking about high school, if we have a center for technology, if we have the equipments for an experiment, if we have articles that they can read and get information. So we may even, because many of them say, well, this applies to elementary most, but I think it's very important to apply it for intermediate and secondary because we tend to have less interest in learning as they are older in age. So we should put more effort there, where we can really talk to their abilities, talk to their interests, and design our classroom environment accordingly. So talk to them, ask them, which one was the best activity? Where did you feel you engaged most? Record that. Use it for further planning. Talk about their interests. We're talking about motion, let's talk about football games, projectile motion of the ball. try to reflect on that when we're talking about the classroom environment. So we may really build the physical and the emotional environment for our students, where they really feel like this teacher, she is giving us this safety. Yes.
There's also a study about the colors that you have in the classroom affect the children learning. It's a very good study, and it's proven that the colors of the walls, the colors that you put, affect students' positive learning.
Yeah. The lighting, the colors.
Classroom temperature, cooling or heating up to the environment they are living in, and which one suits them.
Exactly, excellent. And you know these bulletin boards that are around the classroom? They should reflect what you're teaching. They are meant to be instructional support. I remember once I went for inspection in one of the schools, and there was Santa Claus and Christmas decoration, and it was March. So whatever we put there should intentionally be an aid for learning, and make this space and area for the student work to be posted there. They love it. They really feel acknowledged, and they're happy to see that their writing was there, their math worksheet was there. And always, when we have those classroom rules and regulations and consequences, they are there for you to refer to them every now and then. So every time I want to start a group work, I remind them, go there, listen, remember, these are classrooms, classroom rules. So please follow them. So make them efficient for your learning, okay? So this would build the classroom environment.
So when we're talking about differentiating my environment, it's like our colleague here mentioned, we have different stations where different things are going on for different types of learners. The activity is split into several activities, all targeting the same material, but at different levels and different types. Go ahead.
Just a second, please, because with the live streaming, we need the mics.
Sometimes we find some problem about if you use these strategies. Some student, if you give them paper to read, another student video to watch, okay? The problem about the tone of the class. The student that want to read, they don't everything quiet, but the student that watch the video, this is a problem. That's about the sound. The second problem about the light. If they are watching the video, that means it's better to turn off the light exactly in the class. But the student that want to read, they want light, normal light.
Yeah, the differentiation doesn't have to be this conflicting. We can choose things that require the same, for example, setting, but are varied in terms of activity, in terms of level, in terms of different things. So we changed the setting to something that fits the consistency in the activities we have. But at the same time, we have a group of activities happening at the same time, not just one. So this might solve, and we're not saying differentiate by learning environment and content and product and process every time. Most of the times, this needs getting used to, and if we don't have the right mindset, we won't do it. We just listen about it and just go. We can start off by doing it at once, for example, trying different types of differentiation, seeing what works for us both, because again, nothing is one size fits all in our classes. Differentiating by content might work in some classes, by environment might work in other classes, and so on. So it's all about the mindset and the willingness to try. So that was it.
So we may have them headsets when they're working on their laptops to watch a video. Yeah, exactly. You may. Sometimes I used to get them out to the hallways. Some students were in class, others were just seated around the hallways next to the classroom doing another activity. So be flexible in that. Just see what is best for the student and just try to think, how can I do it? So the priority is for my students' differentiation.
Okay, so that was differentiating and its 4 types. Let's talk a little bit about individual needs of students. So,
whom am I differentiating for? Who are my students? So we said, how do we differentiate? Okay, or what do we differentiate for? Now we're going to talk about who are our students that they really need this differentiation. Okay, multiple intelligences, as we have mentioned. So we have, I still remember up till now when I had a science class with my students, and we were talking about, in biology, about the white blood cells fighting for the viruses. So some of them, they were dressed in red, some of them were dressed in white, and the virus was dressed in black. And they would show how these white blood cells would go and engulf the virus. And it was so funny that they never forgot it. So we may think about these kinesthetic activities, and as well as the visual and the auditory that we have talked about.
So we're telling you about the needs. First need we need to cater for is the different learning styles. The second one is academic abilities. We know they are different not only in terms of learning styles, but in terms of abilities. So we need to keep in mind when we are differentiating, whatever kind of differentiation it is, content, process, product, or environment.
And talking about, you mentioned those struggling students that they need the teacher most. When it comes to those high achievers, and I know I can give them the instructions clearly and they can work independently, because those students who are the struggling learners, these are the ones that need me most. So I can have a group of students, teacher-guided students, and the others that can work independently. So I can give different instructions. I can benefit from this time where those that are high achievers or even on-level students, they can work alone, and I can put a leader for their groups, while I am putting those students who are in need and doing something like reinforcement or reteaching to make sure that they have attained the objective that I want them to learn.
So this is the second, academic abilities. This is another need. Another need they have is they have different interests. So the examples we craft, the questions, the activities, the more linked to their interests, the more relevant, the more effective.
And Mr. DJ has mentioned plenty of engaging students' interest, where we have to think about the age group, what do they like, what are their activities, and try to figure out questions that would relate the learning to those interests. So this is something that we really need to do. And we cannot do that if we do not know our students. You know, at the beginning of the year, we do these icebreakers with the students. We do some activities where we ask them, what do you love to do? What do you love to eat? What is your best hobby? How many members of a family are you? Things like that, right? Because we want them to get to know each other. Now, this information shouldn't be only for the students to get to know each other, especially when we have a new student. Benefit from that and make use of it as a teacher. Just put names of students and boxes where you write what they are interested in. Maybe he's a single baby in the family, so you know he might be a little bit spoiled and we need to really make things a little bit more strict with him. Maybe he's a member of 6 siblings, so this is a child who needs attention, right? So all these informations are indicators of how can I attend to these students' abilities and needs and interests. Some of them love football, some of them like basketball. So let's get engaged with, maybe they can get some things that those celebrities have said and try to think about why did they say so. So engage them, make them related to, like, where you live, how would it affect your life? Different geographical places have different life activities, right? Especially when it comes to hobbies and excursions. So Make them think about that. Don't isolate the learning in the classroom from their real life. Always, as DJ has mentioned, those questions that relate science, social studies, math, whatever, to their real life. In math, make a small supermarket there in the corner. Make them buy and pay and get the change. They need to relate math to their real life. Okay? Thank you.
Okay, so this is the third need. The fourth need is multiple intelligences. Again, this is when we differentiate by product. They have different types of intelligences. If we want to differentiate, we need to take into account this type of difference among our students. I'm going to start pacing a little bit faster so we can finish on time. Another need is the pacing and readiness. We were just talking about pacing. So different students can acquire information at different paces. This is differentiating by what? By process. This is differentiating by process. They need different support times. So we're just showing you how those needs are linked to one of the 4 types we've mentioned earlier. They have different needs, and each of those can be catered to by one of or more of the types of differentiation.
I can do like we all do at the beginning to get to know the readiness of my students. What do I do? At the beginning of every concept or at the beginning of the year, what do we do? Pre-assessments or diagnostics, right? And this is where we come to know where our students are, where is their readiness. And sometimes we tend to accommodate our planning according to what we had found necessary there, right? So this is very good knowledge of their readiness. Even at the beginning of the lesson, I can do the KWL chart. Again, this gives me enough information about what do students know so that I can build up on that. And the pacing. Some students, they're very fast. So I can give them like 10 multiplication exercises, while others are really not that fast. So I can give them 5. But that's fine, because as long as the learning has taken place, what's the problem? So this is a kind of accommodation that I can do for my students regarding their readiness and their pacing.
Special education also. We might have special ed students now. A lot of mainstreaming is happening in our classrooms. This is another need. We need to cater to students who are hyperactive.
Who are those special education students? What are some cases that, and sometimes their interest, when we talk about special education, students with specific learning difficulties, what are some of those students that you see around in your classroom? What do you see?
Dyslexic?
Slow learners.
Dyslexic.
Autistic.
ADHD. What else? ADD, attention deficit. Anything else? So for those students with learning difficulties or with what we call disorders or special learning difficulties, we need to really see how can we cater for them. So when I have a dyslexic student who can, I once attended a session and the presenter himself was dyslexic. And he was really describing how he sees these letters. They are like floating shapes. So he cannot read. And some of them, they have the type of dyslexia where they can see things on the opposite sense when they write. So these students, I should give them more of visual aids, like pictures, like auditory information, tape, record, and you have the audios in your McGraw Hill that might be excellent for those dyslexic students. So use them. We may also have those with dyscalculia. And those with dyscalculia, they cannot really relate numbers to amounts. But if you tell them a problem with problem solving, they're excellent. So amazingly, I can put those numbers into the context of problem solving so they can really do it. At lower ages, I can give them counters and connecting cubes to do it. So use those facilities. When I have an autistic child, try to restrict as much as you can those distractions, because they really like to concentrate. They don't like loud sounds. They don't like intensive lights. They don't like a lot of movement around them. So try to put them away from the group when they want to concentrate and work. So these are simple things that I can help my students with when they have specific learning difficulties. And the hyperactive, you know, just give them a lot of chores and duties around the class, distribute, erase, get the material for the group work, yeah? Okay, when they need some break for 2 minutes, you finish your work, okay, go to the hallway. Go for a small walk and come back. So give them these facilities that are handy and easy to manage in the classroom.
Okay,
And now, as Nabil said, with the inclusion of those students in our classrooms, because they really have the abilities, but we need to see which route would they learn best with.
Okay, so that was the second part of the organizer. We talked about 4 types so far of differentiation. We talked about what are we catering for, what are the students' needs, who are they. So we differentiate for students' readiness, interest, and profile. We're gonna have a 15-minute break now. And during the break, this is a QR code for a test that you guys can do. If you're joining online, you can scan the QR code, even here. During the break, just for probably entertainment or learning a little bit more about yourself, scan this, and when you join us back, we're going to ask you about the types of intelligences that you scored higher on.
So this is a very handy and easy to do multiple intelligences test that would really tell you more about yourself. It might be to your satisfaction because you know yourself very well. And it might be that, oh, I didn't know that I'm that musical. Okay? So try to, okay, just to disclose your personality and your multiple intelligences more, try to do it. And we'll get back to you in exactly 15 minutes. So please, let's respect the time. You can go have a cup of coffee or something, but make sure you're back at
11:30.
11:30, exactly. So as we are starting, if we may ask everybody to come in, please.
Those of you who joined us, did you do the multiple intelligence test?
If any of you have done this, did you try to explore yourself? Was it to your satisfaction? Was there anything that made you really wonder, am I that intelligent in that area that I did not discover in me yet? Did anybody try it?
They're aware of the types of intelligence they have. Okay, let's get started. So,
just I want to pinpoint 2 things during my conversations here. Now, when we want these students to work out of interest, now when you dictate them what to do, they really feel offended, even though they know how to do it well. But when I give them the options, like you may do this or that, and get the sense of ownership of what they want to do, this is good enough for them to show interest and to present the work to you in the best way possible. Another thing is that many of you, as I was talking to outside, you do centers, you do differentiation, and that's beautiful. So maybe whatever we're doing is not an added information much of, but one thing I want to tell you, now you have to do these centers and these different activities with a lot of knowledge of your students. So try to be aware of what you're doing and for whom are you doing. So don't just build those centers around the classroom without being conscious of whom are you catering for in your classroom. So I know if I'm doing the cut and paste activity, then I can have this and this and that who are kind of static work well there. If I'm gonna have the video running, so I know that Kareem, Sama, and Hassan can do well there. So be aware of whom are you catering for with those various activities.
Okay, so we still have two things to do, then we're gonna wrap up. The first thing is we're gonna have an activity. We're gonna show you a video. And after this video, we're gonna ask you to answer certain questions you have on your worksheets. The video is short. Please pay attention so you can fill the answers to the following questions. We are going to try to locate in the video, or to identify in the video, the type of differentiation happening, the role of the teacher in this video, the individual differences that were addressed in the activities shown in the video, the technology, how was it helpful when it comes to differentiation that was demonstrated in the video, and then what classroom management strategies did the teacher use to make sure those simultaneous activities were on point and not a distraction. We'll watch the video, then we'll get back to you.
And this is when we work with our students, and Mr. DJ has mentioned that, always tell them what the expectations are ahead of time. So they're ready to look for that information when they watch a video or when they read an article, so they can locate it easily as they're doing the activity. So make them ready to extract those answers by going through the questions before they go through the activity.
The questions are on your worksheets, and if you're joining us online, the worksheet you downloaded has the same set of questions. Let's start.
Is differentiation all across the curriculum here at Highlander, and especially in the first grade. Although the content is the same, having the stations really allows me to tailor my lessons to each individual group of learners. So how the differentiation looks in my classroom, we start off with a whole group lesson.
So let's get our reading glasses on. Let's get the letter part of our brains activated.
This section of our curriculum, we have been looking at nonfiction texts. When we're looking at our book today, we're going to be thinking about where we can get information. And then in the phonics realm, we focused on contractions.
We're taking two words, and what are we sticking them together with? Apostrophe. Yes, Karen. Good
and
job.
then we break off into our small groups. So our yellow group is still learning how to do a lot of our literacy things. The green group is doing pretty well, but has a few things to work on still. And our blue group is hitting all the first grade standards and needs to be stretched. So our differentiation kind of takes two forms. The first is by student grouping, and the second is by modality of learning. We have 20 minutes per station, and there are 3 of the stations. The students will rotate through all 3 stations each day.
So our first station for the blue group is the computer station.
The students use a Google form to check in. They'll normally watch a video or carefully observe a photograph and answer some questions about that.
We watched a video about how to grow a seed. We had to type in our favorite part and why.
After they finish that form, they can check out an ebook.
And then you could do this game of reading called Teacher Master How to Read.
We're delivering things in a way that is visual, that is auditory, that is individual to the students through the technology.
After that, she rings the bell.
Clean up, switch up, first grade readers.
We switch to the sort station.
Our sort station is more of a physical modality. They're using their bodies, which is so important for first graders. They need to move. Kids are cutting out the words, they're gluing them down.
We had a contrasting game. It's fun because it's all mixed up and you had to find the right pieces. And then after we do that, we do rainbow writing.
That's another way that we differentiate. If students are able to get through more work, then they have some freedom of choice.
Clean it up, switch it up.
The last station, we're talking to each other and learning from each other. So that's more of the social interaction type of modality.
I like the teacher station the most. cool because we get to be with Miss Gallagher and we get to learn cool stuff.
So take a look at the illustrations on this page, right? And the content is the same, but it can be differentiated in a number of ways. My blue group, for example, they know what text is. They know what illustrations are. And so for them, I create a Venn diagram.
You need to make one circle like this, and then you make another circle overlapping that.
Oh! For the yellow or the green group, I'm just leaving the Venn diagram out of it. We're still doing essentially the same thing, but just that piece that might be confusing to some of those students, I just leave that out for a later time. They'll get to it. All right, so clean up and meet me in the middle of the rug for writing. Nice work, first grade.
Being able to move through those stations, it's just another level of helping the students learn as much as they can each year. They really feel excited when they make that growth.
They're proud of themselves. They feel like they're effective learners. As a teacher, honestly, it is a lot of work, but the results that you see in the happy faces of the kids and the good feeling that you have in the classroom is worth it.
Okay, so we're going to give you around 10 minutes, maybe a little bit less, to answer the questions, please. 10 minutes. Answer the questions you have on your worksheet about the video, and we'll discuss the answers you get.
We can do that orally just to go through time quickly.
Yeah, let's do this orderly.
So we can go through
So what types of differentiation did you guys see in the video? What types of differentiation did the teacher demonstrate?
What's the strategy that the
lesson?
teacher was using? What is it called? Station rotation,
take a minute,
right? So this is the station rotation strategy that was implemented in the video. The second question?
This is, for example, an example of what type of differentiation? Learning environment. We talked about learning environment. So what was the role of the teacher in the video? Facilitator, excellent, of course. So the teacher was a facilitator, not the source of information anymore. They're just facilitating the activity. What individual differences were addressed? Different learning styles. Yes, what else? Different interests, different teaching methods. One time we were addressing the class as a whole group, then we divided them into small groups and
Open
had
discussion as well, and we have different teaching methods that covers all kinds of intelligence. We have auditory and individual learning as well.
Yep.
All the things that help them.
Okay.
So the role of the teacher is to facilitate the role of students as well in the classroom as well.
Yeah, and
there were opportunities for working on their own, but at the same time, opportunities for interaction with others.
excellent. She targeted students who were struggling and advanced students.
So something I want you to really think about as you have watched the video. When we look at each of these three stations, within the same station, there were different activities.
Exactly.
So for the technology station, they had to read a story and then answer questions, and then they had a game
To play.
right? So whoever finishes that can go to the other one so that you can fill the time of the students throughout the rotation. When we come to the matching, some of them were cutting and pasting, and then when they do that, they do the matching, the dog bone with the dog plate. And after that, they were writing the words, copying them. So you're filling the time of the students within every station with different activities for the same group of students. And when it comes to the station where the teacher was, the teacher-guided station, first she invited those students who had low abilities or approaching level, and she worked with them so that it was a kind of reinforcement and more support so that she makes sure they are learning well the concept of contractions. And she said she was doing the chart for them. While when the high-level students came to her station, she used the Venn diagram And she said those students will get to it later on, but they're not ready for it yet. So even in every station, she was differentiating and filling their time fully. And what was she using to control the time?
Yep,
the bell.
yes.
So they can move, get the signal to move from one station to the other.
This also is an example of a type of differentiation. Which type of the four? Giving them support at different levels. Differentiation by... She demonstrated, Ms. Reem was talking about how the teacher allocated more time to some students than others. This is differentiation by what? By pace, so it is process, excellent. This is differentiation by process. So differentiation by content, by learning environment, and even by process. We saw examples of all of that in the video. So, exactly. This empowers students. So the classroom management strategies, as my colleague mentioned, the bell to facilitate the transition between the activities.
And even at the beginning, just always think about what attracts the students' attention so they can be all mine, so I can start my lesson.
Yeah, talking about attention.
She talked about those reading glasses and letters in the mind so they can start reading. So everybody was attracted to her. Even in high school, you can get them a picture of something that is really breathtaking. So if I want to talk about probably pollution, I can get them the most awful photograph of pollution in one of those countries with these smoggy and foggy scenes, and then start to discuss. So always have this grabber to make everybody attentive to you, make sure they are ready to learn. Exactly.
Yes. I will add one more thing, talking about attention. Today, our students have very short attention spans, 3 seconds almost. We have 3 seconds to grab their attention. Do you know why? Why they have this? 30 seconds, shorts and reels. Have you ever, if you try, take this and try it when you're watching the next movie or the next video. If you watch a movie nowadays, just look how often the scenery changes, the scene changes, or how fast every scene changes. You will realize that no scene takes more than 3 to 5 seconds. We are getting used to seeing different things consecutively, continuously, and getting stimulators. We have phones that give us notifications every while. Someone went live. You have a new message. Check in your hotel. We keep getting notifications. We are used to watching material that keeps giving us stimulators. What does this mean for us educators? We need to have a big bag of tricks. We need to differentiate, because the variety that we provide during our instruction, the variety of activities, the differentiation that we do will, to some extent, mimic this variety that the students are used to. This is becoming intuitive, short attention spans. This variety will help us reach today's kind of students. So, this was the last part of the organizer. We can use instructional strategies to differentiate, such as scaffolding. Our colleague mentioned scaffolding a while ago, flexible grouping, graphic organizers, and so leveled reading. We're going to show you examples from McGraw Hill's books about each of those as we go through.
And if I just want to hint at one thing, when we talk about flexible grouping, what does that mean? The jigsaw, okay. Fine. And what do I take into consideration in my flexible grouping?
Students' interests, student levels, students' styles of learning.
Exactly. Now, I may think about two things when I talk about flexible grouping. Either the homogeneous groups or the heterogeneous groups, right? When do I use the heterogeneous groups and why? You said something?
Activities, so they can learn from each other, collaborate during collaboration.
Okay, so this is the heterogeneous, mixed abilities. So I heard somebody saying we have this study buddy where we pair up students together, the high achievers and the low achievers, so they can teach each other. Or they can work in heterogeneous groups when it comes to a project, where here comes each one with his abilities and hobbies and talents to really contribute to the project you're doing. And when we're doing the homogeneous groups, this is when, as she mentioned, we put them in levels in the video, you know, and these levels were not, they were color-coded, right? So she did the green, the blue, and the yellow, keeping in mind that the green is for the approaching, the blue is for the on-level, and the yellow is for the high achievers. And this is how they went to the different centers. So this is when we talk about flexible grouping. It depends on what your intention is. Do you want the varied abilities and the support of colleagues for the product? Or do you want the different levels separated to do various activities that would challenge them? And I can take care of that homogeneous group of low achievers for more support and reinforcement. So keep this in mind. Why am I grouping? What for? Okay? Yes. Now we'll be hinting at those different strategies as they are in your McGraw Hill books. Somebody here wants to say something.
Like when you put blended groups, I found that like the high achievers, the low achievers are taking the work from the high achievers without putting any effort in that. Like, is there any recommendation for like, how do you deal with blended groups?
Knowing the abilities of the students and knowing your students well, you can give them different tasks in the groups. So if I can have a high achiever who's good in writing, okay, let the low achiever do the research, get him the information, and he would blend it into a writing. You see? Like a low achiever can easily do a research, right? Get focused information. Another one is good in computers, he can do it as a PowerPoint presentation. So try to figure out what are the abilities of those members of the heterogeneous groups so that you can assign or make them assign different activities and chores that each one will commit to. And if they commit themselves to it because they have chosen it, they will do a marvelous job.
We prefer like heterogeneous over homogeneous groups.
Depending on your objective. Okay.
So we'd love to take all the questions. I just wanted to remind you we still have around 20 minutes.
Yes. This is not a question. It's just I just wanted to say something about like in modern education where I don't know if you're familiar with Fiona Hogg. She talked about like the success criteria, which you just put the students wherever they are, and then even when you differentiate and somebody is just like taking the high level worksheet or task or text or whatever it is, you just try to just push the other person to just, you know what, yes, now you finish this one, you just do the other one. And then one of those flexible, it works with a flexible grouping, and I think she mentioned, Fiona Hogg, mentioned that no use of homogeneous and heterogeneous groups, you just put them in the way that would serve them first, and then it will serve your objective. And then one of the flexible grouping thing is just to give extensions, because you would always have that one person who's just like, I'm done, I'm done, I'm done. Exactly. So that would be something that he would irritate the group around them, and then that would just leave you just
some more
there.
extension,
So
some more in-depth.
And then with the success criteria, it works. Especially with the low-level ones, you could just give them the same question, just different instructions. They could have the same question like you do with the level text and with the Exile level, from an English point of view, sorry. But you just give them that, and then they just kind of
Yes,
reach their
that's definitely
expectations.
helpful.
So.
We have, we have different schools of thought, we have different approaches. And again, reminder of how we started the session. There is no one-size approach that fits everybody.
Thank you so much.
It
That
depends
was
on the
very
context.
fruitful intervention.
Okay, so now we have an activity. Ms. Reem, should we
Yes.
just go over this quickly, or?
So what we're gonna do now is that if you scan this QR code, you're gonna have a binder with some parts of the teacher's edition from McGraw Hill. So please choose and select the lesson or the chapter that relates to you. So if you're a math teacher, go directly to the math lesson. If you're an English teacher, go directly to the English teacher. If you're a science teacher, go directly to the science lesson. And let's try to see where are opportunities of differentiation that are found in the McGraw Hill books. There are plenty of support material and resources and ideas and strategies that would really support the differentiation
Instead
in
of
the
20,
classroom.
we're going to give you 7 minutes. Just go over it quickly. The binder you get will have the same worksheets, so you keep scrolling down until you find the subjects. If you're joining us online, you can do the same. 7 minutes, and then we discuss briefly so we can wrap up. And
As you're
send you to
going
breakout.
through, you can fill up this table here. Yeah, okay. You can fill up this table as you're going through the material. So tell us what's the differentiated activity and what does it differentiate for and who does it differentiate for. Okay, as you are scrolling through. And we're gonna give you like 5 minutes. Yeah. Mr. Nabil, can we go to the QR code, please? This is English.
Yes, this is English.
Okay, the first one is English.
Platform, right? Yeah, good.
The second one is this is where English ends. This is the last one for English. And after that you have math. Okay, this is English, 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 English. Come on. Oh my God. Okay, this is where math starts.
Okay, I'm English.
Okay, you're English. Okay,
So I have to
you
go
can go.
back.
Yeah, and try to see where is differentiation in this material. What are they differentiating for? Yes, sure. Okay, and this is the English. Okay, are you English?
Yes.
Okay, so all this is English. Now what I want you to do is to look at the pages and see where are opportunities for differentiation here. Here it is. Differentiated reading. You have the 4 levels of reading. Here
Okay,
we have
if you scroll down, you will find the
prompts
lessons.
as
Keep
needed.
scrolling. Yeah, okay.
For read, reread, and integrate at different
Science,
depth
I think
of
it's one
knowledge
before
levels.
last. If
So
you
this
keep
is
scrolling,
again
yeah,
another
hold on,
opportunity for differentiation
bit.
for the students' abilities and
I
needs.
think-
Here you have the highlighted terms. This is also a strategy that we can use for differentiation. Now, where else do we have? Now, we have also here, when we come, okay, ELA, academic language. Again, we go for the ELA learners just to make sure that the lesson is accommodated for them. So you see how the academic vocabulary is highlighted for them and simplified. And you have the guided practice. You have the explain, model, and guided practice. This is for Latin roots, but definitely it works for any student. Like I heard from some teachers that you have Russian students that know very, very little English. So this might work for them. Okay, when you explain, then you model, then you guide them, so you are scaffolding for them. Okay, and here again, small groups. Again, you have the differentiation for small groups on-level and beyond level, and the ELL, and the approaching. The approaching and the ELL together, and the on-level and beyond level together. And you still have more, much more. Now here, this is for the...
In math and in English,
Okay.
there's a whole section
Called
of
differentiate.
differentiate.
Yeah, this is what we're talking about. Yeah.
However, in science,
Yeah.
when you open the science, it's not that
In
much.
science, what happens is, for example, everything is arranged according to the 5 E's.
Yeah, but there's not like math. Math is more rich.
They did in science. First of all, as you know, it's arranged according to 5 E's. So, for example, under explore, you would find...
Just give it some time to upload again, probably.
Depending on the grade level in science, you will find something like this in explore and engage.
Scroll through.
The activities at different levels. Guided, instructed, and so on.
I think this is where you can find some English. Just give it some time. Yes. Yep.
But basically, it's the same thing. It's providing different options. Formative units, for example,
Yeah. Yes, they do have differentiation. Yes, they do have differentiation. When your science teacher, you have inquiry at the 4 different levels or the 3 different levels. You have the inquiry at the structured level, guided level, and open inquiry. So you can assign the students the activities with the 3 different levels of inquiry based on their abilities. So I can give the guided for the on level, the structured, where they tell them what to do step by step in the inquiry activities for the approaching, and for the high-level students, I can give them the open. And you have also for science, I don't know if you have this for the high schoolers, but they have the leveled readings. The thinking, the inquiry, I'm sure, but the leveled readings, I'm not sure they have it for the high schoolers, where they have the same text at different levels of vocabulary and complexity. Okay, so you can really choose according to your students' abilities.
And the resources provided, but in McGraw Hill, they're continuously working.
Yeah.
They introduced an update to the books, which now I think covers the same type of resources from 0
It's
to
there
8,
for
from 1
you.
to 8.
What we have witnessed is when every stage of lesson involved with DOK, depth of knowledge. This is the feature is involved with all
I
grades.
don't know if McGraw Hill have incorporated this, but I mean, if you follow, if you get some examples, you will know how to do it yourself then.
One level to another.
Yeah.
So this is something interesting.
Yes.
And the option that
Yes,
you
yes, yes. You want something handy for them.
resources as a
If
teacher.
we can get
Yes.
the opportunity to provide us with
Always
materials with
start
high,
with the
levels.
on level.
Can we do that?
I think we can
And then tell them, how can I simplify it and give them more structure? And how can I make it more challenging by the students taking some part in the learning? So always.
Okay, I think
work
we're
with
out
the
of time.
department on that.
It's
Something
12:05.
I
We
don't
still have 10
any
minutes to
idea
wrap
if
up.
McGraw Hill have this. So you can ask outside for the science.
Okay, so I'm sure by now you
if
got
there are
some
any
ideas
that have this
on the
ready
types
and
of resources that McGraw Hill provides in the books, in the chapters you have. Let's take a couple of examples that you guys located. Who would like to share what they found in the chapters?
So
Don't
where
all
are
shout
different
out answers at the same
opportunities
time.
for differentiation that you found? Let's start with English.
Hey, go ahead. Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Also the online problem solving. So
Yeah.
in math, there's a whole section for differentiate,
Yeah.
where they have the reinforce and the extended thinking and the game stations and the
Exactly.
spiral review and all this.
Okay, so for example, in math, we're gonna show you a real-life example and a demo of that kind of resource. They already give you something to differentiate. Any other examples?
English here?
Yeah, for
For example, giving target vocabulary words. We have here teaching small groups, okay? For example, approaching level,
Yeah.
ELL, pre-teach the words,
Excellent.
okay? Read the words for the students. For example, on level and beyond levels, have the students look and guess, predict
Yes.
and share with other students.
So they're telling you what to do with each type of students, those who are approaching level, on level, and beyond. Ms.
So
Reem will
this
show
is
us
for the
examples.
small grouping where
Yeah.
you can have students at 2 different groups. And you have a whole handbook that is a supplementary with your McGraw Hill books that is titled Small Group Activities.
Yes.
So they guide you about how to do these small group activities. Any other opportunities? We mentioned something together.
Okay, we'll take
we
one more.
explored together. What did you explore?
In English part, we had differentiated reading, approaching level, on level, and beyond level.
Yeah.
That according to the level of knowledge of students, we can, divide them into different subcategories and then practice with them.
Leveled
So the
reading.
leveled readings. Also with science, we have the leveled readings.
Yes.
And they have also the above level, the extended for the science. And in science, we also have, sorry, I took your
We're
part.
going to cover that. That's okay.
Okay, the different levels of inquiry. Okay, where you have the structured inquiry for the approaching level, where you give them the steps to go through the inquiry activity. The guided, where you release some of the support and you give them some guidelines. And the open, where you're giving the opportunity for the students themselves to go through the inquiry activity. Yeah.
Okay, so
English and the other one is in Spanish. So would that be considered as differentiation by content?
Yes, definitely.
But it's the same content. It's just like the language is different.
The language is different, but it is differentiation by content.
Okay, so those are for the EALs, basically.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
So those are some examples on the screen. We're gonna go over them quickly. Then we're gonna wrap up for today. So in English, as our colleagues mentioned, we have several resources provided to you in the books and in the accompanying resources that McGraw Hill provides. For example, in Wonders, you can see here that you have different resources for different aspects of what you do
And
as
when you
teachers.
click on this, you will directly get the leveled books, the different activities. Now you see the text has a different size, less complex, less vocab words.
Look at those, for example.
Simplified.
This is one level. This is another level.
It has an audio all through.
This is another level. And you can see the glossary is changing, the size of the text is changing, and so on. So,
And the questions differ according to Bloom's taxonomy's different levels. Exactly. Very good. So we have differentiation all across. So also we have the scaffolding, where you have it very clear in your teacher's editions, where it says, I do, we do, you do. You see it there. So this is a scaffolding.
So
when I guide the students through the work first, and then I ask them to initiate and I facilitate, and then you go independent. Yes, you can do it now. Okay? And when I talk about scaffolds, what's scaffolding in real world? Yeah. Okay, what do we call it in Arabic?
what is a scaffold?
Yeah, Ali. Very good. So where is the learning in this scene, in engineering? You have a building and you have the scaffolds. Where's the learning? Huh?
Up.
Where's the learning?
It's the actual building.
Now when we talk about, yes?
Yeah.
Very good. So it's the building itself starting from the foundation. Thank you so much. So the learning is the building that is building up step by step. Where are the students in the scaffold?
Yeah.
We have the scaffold. Where are the students? On the scaffold. Very good. So they're going up the scaffold to build this building, putting the blocks, which is their learning, and where's the teacher? The scaffolder itself. It's the support that is given to the students. So this is what we really do. So here it is. It's very clear, the scaffolding. And you have a scaffolding handout. Also, one of the supporting material with McGraw Hill, where they tell you how to scaffold for different students' abilities and needs.
This is all combined with graphic organizers, small grouping activities, as well as several other resources provided within the same book. In math...
And just one more thing, the assessment. If you go through the English binder, you have the assessment at the end. It's called Get Involved. Look at the questions and see how they differ across the 3 levels. From the open questions to the guided questions, where they tell them, look at paragraph 2 and get the answer about this and that. And you have for the approaching level, where they give them the starter for the answer. So you can do the assessment at the 3 different levels as well.
And in math, like our colleague mentioned, there is a whole section called Differentiate. I wanted to show you a live demo, but for the sake of time, we're not going to do that. In the website, the accompanying website for the book, you have a section called Differentiate, where they provide you with resources at different levels for students approaching or on level or beyond. The same applies to science. In science, yeah, it includes a lot of resources, and depending on the level, the grade level, you would have access to different resources. When it comes to science as well, you might not find the section called Differentiate. However, all the lessons in science are arranged according to the 5 E's. And under 5 E's, for example, you have a section for Explore. They provide you with texts for leveled readings. So you'd have level 1, level 2, level 3, texts for different levels of readers. On another hand, you would find in the section called Engage some activities. This is the leveled reading, for example. And in inquiry, they would give you, as my colleague mentioned, different types of inquiry, whether it's guided or structured.
In the Explore stage of the 5 E's, you will have the different levels of inquiry.
Okay, so we're going to wrap up. The last activity for today is the following. You have the last 2 pages of the worksheets with you. If you're online, they are the last 2 pages of the first document you downloaded. You have 9 rhombuses. Each has a piece of information. What we need to do is to do a matching activity. Connect according to the chronological order how things should be happening.
This is a wrap-up of how we really come to do differentiation and apply it in the classroom. Like, if you want to go tomorrow to your classroom and say, well, I have to differentiate, my students deserve that, and it's rewarding for me when I see every single student learning at his own abilities and being challenged with my support. So what are the steps that you're going to follow for differentiation, starting by yourself? So you match the number to the letter. So you have the diamond 9 with numbers, and you have on the other side the diamonds with letters. So try to put the letter next to the number. You may discuss on your tables because you may have varied answers. So no one size fits all here. It depends on your teaching style, what comes before what. So we're going to be flexible in that, following your logic. Yeah, you're saying they are the same thing, so they can go. Yeah. Knowing their profile, then you can know. Knowing their profile, then you would know what their needs are. Or detecting their needs will help you build their profile. So that's why it's a diamond 9, because you have things that go parallel.
The environment after I get to know my class.
Okay, so this is why we have this shape, because we may have things that go together. So she's saying, I set the environment, okay, and then I differentiate by content, and she may say, well, I need to know what am I going to teach, was my objective, and I set the environment accordingly. So that's why they go the same level. This is why I did not tell you put them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is why we use the diamond 9.
Okay, we're going to give you 1 more minute, then 2 to discuss and break out. 1 more minute.
So you're fine? You're okay? Now the reason why we have it in diamond 9 shape is that you may have things that go parallel, that are at the same level. So you may say, I need to know my students' needs, and then I build their profile. And then he might say, well, I'm going to write down what I learned about my students as a student profile.
For the sake of time, again, I'm sorry we're moving fast. We just wanted to make sure we wrap up in a meaningful way. Can I have your attention, please? So, your answers might be different. This is not the only right combination, okay? This is just to give you an idea. We have 3 levels here. Actually, we have, 3 levels. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 levels. Sorry. The first level, we start off with the right mindset. As teachers, we're not talking about the mindset of students. When we started, one of the colleagues told us we don't have the time sometimes for differentiation. How can we do that? So if we as teachers don't have the right mindset, we will not differentiate.
So the reason we chose this model, which we call the diamond 9, is that we may have things that go at the same level simultaneously. So somebody might say, well, I'm going to recognize the differences, and accordingly I build the student's profile. And somebody else might say, well, I'm going to write information about my students and build the student's profile, and then I know the differences so that I can accommodate accordingly. So both are on the same level. That's why I did not put them in sequence, because they go parallel. Someone might say, well, I need to know my content, and then according to the objective, I can structure my classroom environment for the activity I'm going to do to match the content. And somebody else might say, well, I'm going to have centers, I'm going to have group work, and accordingly, I'm going to choose the content and flexibly plan the activities to suit my students. So they both go the same way. So I'm differentiating therefore the process when they go in groups or when they go in pairs.
Okay, so thank you so much for joining us. We hope you benefited. We liked your company. Those who are online, thank you for joining us. This was Nabil and Areem from Amzil. We're now going to move to breakout rooms. We hope to see you in future events, and have a nice rest of the day.